We're going to get started. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. Before we close the casket, everyone would like a final chance to go say hi, say goodbye. Now you're up. Everyone, please arise for a moment. You may be seated. Thank you. On behalf of the family, I want to thank everyone for being here today. This will be somewhat of a non-traditional funeral for us typical Utah County people. For one, I'm grateful that I'm not wearing a tie or a suit right now. Rob would not have wanted that. I'm a boob too, so sorry about that. I'm gonna do my best here. We've tried our best to honor what we feel Rob and Logan and Charlie and Stacy would have wanted. As you notice, he'll be buried with one of his axes and the baby's breath in his beard. He didn't have a choice on that, but I think that's fitting. We don't really have a formal program, so here's kind of how it's going to go. We have a couple of different communities here, and thank you for all the people that guys and don't know. I hope you're thinking of some things about Rob over the next little while here to help us celebrate and learn more about him. I know him as a little brother. I grew up and moved out when he was little. I changed his diaper a bunch of times, I'm sure. But when all the fun memories we're having, I was married and off having kids and kind of doing my own thing. And we have kind of an interesting family. We love each other, but we don't get together a lot as family. So I think this is a little wake-up call opportunity for us to do that a little more, family, looking at you guys. To the rest of you that are, I know that he loved going out and protesting, and he would find causes. He cared about people. I heard a little bit about, I wish I'd have paid more attention. There was a Saturday night thing. I knew it was happening, but I didn't think to find out what time it was and to go. I just heard that his buddies were getting together, and I heard about some of the stories that were told there, and I want to hear all of those stories. So those of you that are here, please come up to the mic when the opportunity presents itself and help us, his family, get to know the other side of Rob a little better. He's a very generous and loving person. If you think about the movie Robin Hood, is it Robin Hood? No, Peter Pan. Sorry, with Dustin Hoffman and Hook, and when Robin Williams tells the one guy, take care of everything smaller than yourself. And the big guy, that was Rob. He's taking care of everyone smaller than himself. This is a good time for this announcement. We're going to need some pallbearers. We got 425 pounds of Rob and a couple 100 pounds of casket. We got to migrate to the cemetery. We don't have to carry it all the way. They have a car, but we're going to need help getting him into the hearse and then out of the hearse at the cemetery. So I'm looking at you guys to help us. We need at least 10. If you do the math, that's still a bit of work. So, and I guess while I'm thinking about that, the other announcement is when we travel to the cemetery, those that you are coming with us, there's not a formal procession. We obey traffic laws. Don't go through a red light. And we'll just meet up at Evergreen, and he's kind of going to be on the northeast section of the cemetery up there for those of you that are coming. I'm excited to be here and to get to know a little bit more about Rob. So the most important thing I need to do now is sit down and shut up. And so first of all, I want to open the mic to family. Stacy, Charlie, Logan, if you guys have words. Everyone except Mike. Still coming up. So I'm going to open the mic to family first, and then once the family has spoken, anyone else, we would love to hear more about Rob or Bob. You guys know him as Bob.
Your side of the family is just a half pint. That's why I came up here.
But we have all the
We're
muscle.
going to have no problem helping out, getting him. You're the one that
Perfect.
We're going to need to help out with.
Thank you. Okay, family, and when family's done, open mic for everyone else. Thank you.
Oh. I was just going with the patriarch.
I didn't know I was supposed to be first. That's okay. It's all right. So I was asked to do the life sketch, or basically to read the obituary. Before I start that, one thing we wanted you guys to know, Stacy wanted me to make sure to announce. So this wasn't in the obituary, but Bob did pass peacefully. And he passed of an enlarged heart. and that's actually a medical condition. I know Mike is going to refer to that a little bit, but I find it ironic because he did have a very large heart and he lived with it for a long, 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 long time. So it's sad that that's kind of what eventually took him as a medical condition, but it was a condition he had, I think, throughout his whole life. So that was my thought about him, aside from the obituary. So Robert Lee Condie, known to family as Robbie and Bob to friends, passed peacefully from this life on Saturday, December 20th, 2025. Bob was born on March 9th, 1977, in Riverside, California, to Lee and Carol Wright Condie. They later located to Springville, Utah, where he grew up for a time, and then relocated again to Spanish Fork, Utah, where he graduated from Spanish Fork High School. After graduation, Bob served an LDS mission in the DC South area. He loved his time as a missionary and being in service to others. After his mission, he worked as a wilderness survival instructor, helping struggling teenagers, and found much joy in working with youth. In March of 2000, Bob married Stacy Pierce in a small ceremony in Las Vegas, Nevada. I was there. They had 3 children, one of whom preceded him in death. They were later divorced, but were able to co-parent their children amicably and lovingly. Bob graduated with a bachelor's in human services in 2007 and later his master's in school counseling in 2011. He was a school counselor in Spring Creek, Nevada for a time. Later in life, his protective nature compelled him to raise his voice by participating in various protests in Salt Lake City. He so wanted to help others who didn't have his privilege and stop injustice wherever he saw it. Bob was a talented artist, making creative drawings, and eventually took up woodwork. He had to keep his hands moving. Bob was known for his very sharp, quick wit and amazing sense of humor. He loved to laugh and could make tense situations feel much lighter. Bob is survived by his children, Logan and Charlie, his granddaughter, Mercedes, his 8 brothers, Steve, Jim, Dave, Mike, Rick, Joe, John, Dan, and his sister, Bobby. He was preceded in death by his son, Roland, sister, Christy, and his parents. So those wishing to honor his memory, most of you probably are aware of this. There's a GoFundMe. And then in the obituary, Jim's Venmo is there if you feel more comfortable donating that way, if you want to donate towards the cost of the services or family. But that was the best way. We didn't want people spending money on flowers that would just go to waste. We wanted to have it be substance, something that would help over time. So my memory of Bob is kind of it's a double-edged sword memory, which there's a lot of those in our family. But I also moved out when Rob was kind of young. So I don't have a lot of, I'm old. I don't have a ton of memories of all that time when we were really little. But one that stuck out to me was we lived in Springville at the top of 2 hills, so 4th North and 9th East. And down at the bottom of 9th East was Art City Elementary School. And we got new to us, we never got anything really new, but it was new to us. And it was a big old van. It was a green van with doors in the back and on the side. And there was a day when I don't know where they were going, that memory is gone. But Mom, they were taking Mike to baseball practice. Sorry, memory just happened. I don't know. Anyway, so a bunch of the kids were in the car and I was up at the house. And I looked outside. It was not long after they left. I looked outside and I saw our van in the middle of the street in front of the school and an ambulance. I'm like, what in the world? And come to find out, Bob had opened the back door of the van while Mom was driving and fell out the back of the van while she was driving in front of the school. Now, that sounds like a tragedy. And at the time, I'm sure it was frightening and super scary. But the thing is, when Rob was asked, once he was fine, he went to the hospital, I think he had a concussion, maybe a broken bone or 2, he was injured. But at the hospital, when they asked him why he opened the back door of the van, he said, well, I just wanted to know if it worked. And that was Rob, like his curiosity and his like inquiry into things. I don't think he often thought of the consequence. Maybe he grew out of that part. I don't really know because I didn't have a lot of interaction with him later in his life, but he always had this innate curiosity and not necessarily an anxiety of what'll happen if I try this, which I think is actually a really great trait. So that's something I remember about Rob. So now, anyone else?
So the weird thing is just today, as we lined up the siblings for that little picture, I was the third oldest in that picture. It's kind of cool. I'm only the fifth oldest in reality. Okay. I thought about some stuff that I could say. I get one, maybe I'm apologizing for wearing a full suit. I didn't, I'm not trying to, but actually in a way, Rob, yeah, I am a little bit.
It's not too late to look for food.
No, that's okay. So, no, something about Rob. So I have a lot of memories growing up with Rob. So, I think in our family, there's a couple of lines. Steve, Jim, and Bobby, they're the old guys. And they kind of were moving on and doing their own thing. And then I think it was probably Dave, from Dave through maybe Rob. Yeah, Christy. Well, yeah, there's some of us in between them, but kind of them. We were kind of a different, right through the middle, being raised. And then John, Dan, and Joe, I think were the younger group that, I'll tell you the rules were different, but it's a little bit different as things changed. And things do change, society and everything else. I loved Rob with all my heart. We didn't always get along. And one of the things that I think is one of the greatest things about Rob is one of the things that sometimes ticked me off the most. And it would be you get in a dispute with him or something. And sometimes, especially as siblings, when you're bickering or you're just whatever, Rob would just start grinning. So friend and his whatever, like that's an awesome part. Like he didn't, I don't really have any memories of him really getting super agitated or really, I'm sure there are some, but my memories of Rob were when it would start to get to that point, man, he'd start grinning, which would make it worse for me, but he could let it go and he could kind of blow it off. And that was Rob. The other thing is, I know a lot of you in here are probably saying, who's Rob? Okay. Because he went by many different things. I don't know when he switched from Rob to Bob. And then he went from Bob to Bobbert, which I didn't even know was a name, but now there are people that, anyway. So, and he was Robbie to me. He went by Robbie. I didn't call him that later on, but anyway, I was asking just a few minutes ago, because again, when we heard from the medical folks what the actual cause was, because it was sudden, which I think is a blessing. I don't know if did he know that he had an enlarged heart? I don't think he knew that. But we all know that he does. But I don't think anyone knew physically that he was dealing with that. And that's one thing about Rob is it doesn't matter where you stood with Rob. And I have two quick memories. Bobby shared one of my most, no, it's great because I remember it a little bit differently. And I'm going to trump yours because I was in the front seat of that van. Okay. And it was on my birthday. I remember exactly. Anyway, I have two memories I want to share of him, but the biggest thing I wanted to share is, we're all, the fun part about the Condie clan, especially the Lee Condie clan, is, and I have a good time sharing this with my friends and coworkers and everything. Is you look at all the different subgroups, cliques, all the different stuff that's out there in the world. We got them covered. Like when we were growing up, every one of us was different. Like every one of us. John's a twin, but you would not know that between him and Dan. Like all along. I think they're probably an inch or two difference in height. Yeah, like I mean, I think Oakley might have thought they were they were twins. They looked exactly alike. No, not all twins are like that. So anyway, but we're all different. Like we're all different. We all did different things. We all had different tastes and everything. And Rob went through a lot of different stages too, like we all do. But he went through some different stages in life too. And I know these last several years, we haven't seen each other very often. And at one point, I just want for the record, I never blocked him on Facebook. But I did, there's that one thing where you don't block them, but it's sometimes you mute them or so there were times like that because, in the Mike Condie world, there were some controversial whatever, and I didn't want to get into it with him, and he'd make comments, and I'd be like, okay, I know he's sitting there grinning at me right now. I'm not doing this. So we had that. But one thing about Rob is, in the grand scheme of things and in all reality, he really didn't care about that. He would give you the shirt off his back. If you needed something, he was there. And then that grin turned into a big smile. Like he loved with all of his heart. And I know that. I know how he felt about his family and his kids. And that was never in question. As I've been looking at the pictures, we better get a hold of that. I want to get a hold of that thing. Someone told me they're going to do a book. Someone was going to put a book together, but because I haven't seen some of those pictures. And then, Jim and I went down the next day when we heard the news, and we were there and talking. And when Logan walked us downstairs and I went in his room, I was blown away. And I knew how creative he was. And he's a tinkerer for sure. Like that guy, he was the one that would tear apart an alarm clock just to see what the heck was going on. So, but when I walked in and saw everything that he had in his room, it blew me away. And he collected, he did that. And then to see some of the things that he did, and man, when I saw all of the carvings and the hatchets and all that stuff, like that was Rob. Like that is Rob too. And I love that. Okay, two quick memories, then I'll sit down. The first one that I want to share, not a lot of you are going to know this, but you're going to recognize Rob in this. I'm pretty sure I was only within a couple of weeks from getting home from my mission. Okay. So I'm talking, I was probably still getting comfortable not having to wear the crazy stuff missionaries have to wear, right? Out on the mission field. And anyway, I was still in a little bit of shock, and I was just getting acclimated. And the rules had changed while I was out on my mission too. So I remember teasing one of the twins, I think. I was sitting in the kitchen. The older guys will laugh at this. I was sitting in the kitchen, and one of the twins, or anyway, someone walked in the kitchen and opened the fridge and made him a sandwich. It was like 10 p.m. Sit down to eat a sandwich, and I'm looking, I'm like, oh, you're gonna get it. Like, Mom and Dad are gonna be so mad at you. Like, what are you talking about? They ate a sandwich. I'm like, man, we weren't allowed to. I just remember growing up, it wasn't like, I mean, obviously we weren't starved, but it was like I mean, I'm kind of surprised that they didn't lock the fridge outside of meal times or whatever. And but I like just a lot of stuff changed. Anyway, I was sitting in the front room. It was late. Like, it was probably 11 o'clock or later at night. And I don't think anyone else was in the room. It was in the new house in Spanish Fork. So up more off Canyon Road, not the one on 5th that you guys will remember, but you older guys that graduated from Springville. Anyway, it was so they lived in 2 different houses in Spanish Fork. So this was, anyway, I'm sitting there, and Rob walks in, and he's just bloody. Like, he had a fat lip. You could already see the black eye coming. One of his eyes was just huge, and there's just blood everywhere, all over. And he walked in, and I freaked out. Like, I stood up and was like, what in the heck? Like, what happened? Are you okay? Like, I'm thinking he got in a car wreck. Okay. He starts laughing. And I'm just like, dude, what happened? And he's like, I just got jumped by a bunch of cowboys. And I'm like, well, we're in Spanish Fork, you know? And he's like, what happened was, and this goes to Rob, because, you know, Rob doesn't back down from anything either. He's a talker. And he had been down, you know, and, you know, Spanish Fork, a little bit known for the Main Street cruisers, right? So him and a bunch of his friends, I don't know if they'd had words with someone earlier in the evening, but they'd all left. And Robbie was, I don't know why, but he was in the parking lot, actually right over here at this gas station behind us over here. And a truck pulled up, and a bunch of guys jumped out with baseball bats and jumped him. And he didn't have any of his friends with him or anything. And they got him pretty good. And so he jumped in. I'm pretty sure it was the old red Justy, for those of you that remember that. Anyway, he jumped in that old red Justy and drove home. And when I saw him, I was like, what? And I lost it. And he was just chuckling. He was like, you know, I probably deserved it, but man, I try to give it back. And I'm thinking, you should be in the hospital. Like, I'm telling you, it was pretty bad. Anyway, and I played baseball. Oh, I went and grabbed a baseball bat, and I jumped in my car, and I drove down to Main Street. Now, would I have recognized? No, because he didn't tell me. He just told me it was a bunch of cowboys. So it would have been me probably in the hospital if I'd have done that. But I was so mad. And that's the other thing. I'm like, Robbie, yeah, he got lippy, and I'm sure he said something or whatever. But that is one of my biggest memories, because it was pretty dramatic to me. The other one was the accident. Both of them were accidents, I guess. So I'm just going to give a little more detail, okay? Because this goes to Rob too. And I felt really guilty about this, because we were going to piano lessons. Okay. So Mom and Dad made me do piano lessons, I think, for 2 years. Okay. And so this one, it was my birthday. So, and me and Rob shared March. So we both had March birthdays. So we were getting ready to go. And I can't remember how old he was. He was young. But it was my birthday, and I had to have been like, I was probably 12 or 13, or 11, 12, 13. And that van was a monster van. It was like a big, huge, green, extra long, crazy van. And when we were leaving the house, so I think it was just Mom was driving me to piano lessons, and Rob wanted to go. And he wanted to sit in the front seat. And I was like, no, you're not. It is my birthday. I get to sit in the front. Okay. And so we argued about it. And then he got in. I was a few years older than he is. But so then he got in, and he got in the very back. So again, there's probably 4 rows of seats. He got behind the last seat and was sitting down and And in the back, it like went down in too, like where I think a tire and stuff would go in there. So he's sitting in there, and he had, this is the other thing I think all of you will appreciate. He had Legos with him. So he was working on, he had done something with Legos, I think. But I remember at the time, I'm like, you know, I won. It's my birthday. I get the front seat. So we're driving down that hill, you know, and that van, I don't even know. That's how brakes go out, is living on a hill like that. And then if you're trying to slow down, go down. So we probably had a little bit of speed going. But when we got down to the bottom, and I think now there's a stop sign right at the bottom. I don't think there was at that time. The cross street did, but going down didn't. Anyway, this is the very first time I had ever heard my mother swear. My mom did not swear. Like, Oakley's looking at me. She gave me a swear jar for Christmas. Anyway, I had never heard my mom swear until that day. So here's what happened. I'm sitting there doing my own thing in the front seat, not thinking anything, and all of a sudden my mom just bust out. Can I say it in German so it's not as bad? Scheiße. Anyway, it blew me away. I was like, whoa. I like turned and looked at my mom, and then when I turned to look at my mom, out of this corner of my eye, I saw the back door was open. And then I turned and looked back, and I saw Robbie bouncing on the road. And it scared the crap out of me. So, because we were going probably 35, 40 miles an hour. And it knocked him out, like he was out. And we hurried and pulled off and went to run. And it feels like someone else was in the car with us. I don't remember, because someone was yelling, like, call 911. And this is way before cell phones. So, and someone had hollered, one of the neighbors had hollered and said, we're calling, you know. So they called, and they came pretty quick. But when we pulled over and out there, he was just laying there. And I said, is he gone? Like, oh my gosh, like, it was traumatic. And I was young. And someone said something like, don't be an idiot. Like, cause his chest was going, like you could see him breathing, like he was breathing. And, but he was unconscious, and he'd broken one of his arms, had a concussion. And I think he did something to one of his legs too, but I don't know that it was broken. But he was hurt pretty good. I think he only spent like a day in the hospital. Like they casted it, and he was okay. And I mean, within a couple of days, he was right back to vintage Rob. And then we argued about what in the crap were you even thinking. And I remember he said that thing. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And I'm like, you're not sure? You're driving in a car and you open the door? Then maybe you forgot to let go of the door handle that pulled you out. Like, it's just crazy. But that's Rob. Like, he wanted to know stuff. He wanted to figure stuff out. Rob was a guy that if you said, hey, that glowing burner on the stove, don't touch it, he'd smile at you and then put his hand on it. Like, you know, that was Rob. Anyway, I didn't mean to be up here for this long, but I love Rob with all my heart. It had to have been his time, and that's why someone else needed him, but we weren't ready. And I joked to someone else, it's out of order. It's not supposed to happen this way, but love him with all my heart, and I'm glad to see all of you, and thank you.
So I'm not good at these, like, getting up and talking stuff. Just got to do it for him. Everyone knows him as he was very kind. He cared about everyone, and he kind of cared about, like, let's say he had his last $10 and you're starving. He'd give you that last $10. Doesn't matter if he was running on E, whatever. Everyone knows him as being the soft, gentle giant. He looks like a big, angry Viking on the outside, but you really got to know him, he's just a big Care Bear. That's my dad. anytime I needed help, he's always there. We have Google and AI and stuff, but anytime I wanted to ask him something, he was always there. Got a lot of stories. I don't even know where to start. Every summer, we'd always go on road trips. We'd go camping. That's what he liked to do. He liked to go outside. He's carving his sticks. He would even carve in the trees at our camping spot. I'm going to pass it to the next person while I think of more of what to say for him.
I don't really have much to talk about either. I don't cry either, so sorry, but I don't know what to say. I don't know half of you. Like, you guys are my family, and I don't know anything about half of you. My favorite story. So back in the 90s, like late 90s, a movie came out, SLC Punk. And my dad really, really liked that movie because he was in the punk scene around, when that movie was inspired by. And he saw so much of himself in Heroin Bob. And people would, call him Heroin Bob because, he's a scary guy afraid of needles. He looked like he was evil, but he was afraid of needles, even though he had all those tattoos. And I remember I watched that movie with him, and spoilers, it's been 20 years. It's been out for 20 years. I'm pretty sure you guys had time to watch it, but spoilers, Heroin Bob dies. And I talked to my dad, and he said that the only difference between him and Heroin Bob was that he was never gonna die. And I'm sorry. I don't have a lot to say. I just love my dad. I miss my dad. I'm sorry. That's it.
I wasn't even gonna come up here, but I gotta follow that with thank you, Charlie. Beautiful, everything saying. You guys, these are good stories, and I guess a really young memory for me was just sitting and having conversations with Bob. He'd share me dreams that he had, and he was just the most interesting person. He kept me captivated. He would tell me, like, just imagine these universes and how we were involved. They weren't real, but they feel real. And I will never forget the lessons that I'm going to continue learning from such a great man. I look around and I look at family, which is huge. A lot of us, young and old, like, it's amazing to be a part of that. And thank you guys. Friends, I look at you as Bob's army that he's been building. That we're in a shield wall together. And we lost a leader. And we can all step up in his memory. And that's what I'm going to do from now on. You learn a lot from everybody you get to spend time with. And this one, you're very lucky to have spent time with. Thank you guys all for being here, for Bob. Um, so I'm pretty close to Robbie in age. And I've been talking to a lot of my siblings, and our family's really unique in that, where's Mike? There he is. As Mike referenced, we're all really unique, and we cover all the different groups within our family. And I was talking with Logan earlier about how there's like no conflict. Like our family, and we haven't always when we were younger, but we just all love each other and we all get along. Despite all the differences and the where we all kind of ended up. Everyone's kind of moved to different places, and I think that's really unique. That when we do get together, which is years go by, and it takes a funeral, but when we all get together, it's like no time has passed, and we just hug on each other, we love on each other, and we just check in on each other and find out how everyone's doing. But when that's over, we all kind of go to our own little lives and just separate, but then we come together, but we feel that love. And even while we're far apart, I know speaking for myself, I feel very loved. And I also know that Robbie was very loved. And I remember when my father Lee passed away, I'm pretty stoic. I don't get emotional very often. It's a pretty rare thing. I suppress it all to come out in a really dangerous, violent way sometime in the future. But I just remember when he passed away, I didn't really cry a lot. And when I lost it was actually when Uncle Rulin was speaking at his funeral. And I learned something about my dad. I learned that he was a kid once. And Rulin was able to share things about growing up that I never knew about my dad. And I felt like I missed out on that because I didn't get to know him at that level. He was dad, but I didn't know him as, young Lee running around causing trouble. And so I learned those things. Robbie's not like that. I think most people know the stories. You've heard a few of them. And as I thought through memories, the things that have been shared already are also my memories. And I remember things differently. So it's good to get everyone's, get it all to come together. So now I've got the stories are clearer for me. I just remember growing up, and we talk about the Springville house on the top of the hill, and we were a weird bunch. I remember hindsight looking back, we were a bunch of kind of feral kids. We were running around just causing trouble, and we were kind of the kids that neighborhood. The people that were really kind of stable in the neighborhood probably didn't want our kids playing with their kids in case they'd start getting into trouble. But we had a blast. We had so much fun. And, we would, one thing that came to mind, we used to take Matchbox cars and we would go out in our backyard and we would just build communities and villages and introduce like water, and we'd had so much fun for hours and hours. We would play with cars. We're up on the big hill. We would ride bikes. So I don't know how we survived. I drove up there yesterday and I was like, everything's so steep up here. And we would just ride bikes like crazy people. It's amazing. But really, really happy childhood. And I just remember Robbie wired very differently, but we would just have so much fun going out and playing. And we would disappear in the mountains for like hours at a time and just get up to the pine trees. And then I don't know how we got away with it, but we just had so much fun. Sometimes we take sleds up there in the winter, and there's cliffs up there. I don't know. It's amazing how we were able to. Times are different now, but I just know that Robbie had a very, very happy childhood, and we all spent a lot of time together. We were close in age, and so we were the ones that we would disappear, and we built huts up in the mountains and just did all kinds of fun things. It was really magical time, and it's fun to reflect on that. But Robbie was very loved, and he'll be missed. And so I like something John said. He raised an army of friends and loved ones, and I just want to encourage us to keep those memories alive, and just there's a lot to share, and there's a lot of lot of sensitive feelings, at a time like this. But we love you, Robbie, and just look forward to seeing you again someday.
So I'm Joe. I'm Rob's little brother, just younger than he is. And I have a lot of memories with Bob. I have a lot of recent ones too. Like, I don't know. I have a lot of brothers, and they've all been really helpful to me. I've had a pretty crazy life. I don't even know. It's just undescribable. I mean, I really never thought I'd live past 20, and then I never thought I'd live past 30, and I never thought I'd live past 40 just because I had a wild life. And is that weird? Yeah. Yeah, like I just made a lot of dumb decisions, and Bob was really there for me all through it. Like anytime I needed help, he was there and he would listen. He was one of the ones I always had his number, and I lived with him a couple times, like couch surfing, just he was always there to help me out, and yeah, even recently, he's just always been there for me. And yeah, I miss him a lot. I know, I guess one of the coolest experiences I've had is he's just been a good example for me. Like just last, I think maybe like a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, we were at work, and he was talking about like every other Friday he had to get off work early, and my boss was like kind of weird about it, but since I'm a boss at my work, I got to go tell my boss that, like this is important, and I remember it was one of his biggest priorities was that he needed to be off every other Friday for his kids, and that was like his number one priority at work, and he was like clear about it right from the beginning. And I don't know. I just thought that was one of the coolest things in the world, that he like really, yeah, he put that first. And like all of his protesting stuff, like, I don't know a lot about that stuff. I'm just too aggressive of a person to be a protester. So I would get in way too much trouble. And so I just told him that. I said, I'd go with you, but, like that would be the end of the world for me, like I couldn't handle that kind of environment, so he was understanding, but, I think I wish I could have been more involved in his life and the things that he did, but, yep. I sure love Bob. I'll miss him a lot. That's it.
I think that's probably it for immediate family. But we would love for the next 20 minutes or so to hear from some of his extended family. As Charlie said, you're all family, right? Bob did not have family when he met. So we'd love to hear from some of you, some of the stories from last Saturday or memories that we may not be aware of. So please come up and take a few minutes and talk about Bob.
I gotta admit, it's pretty cool to not feel weird about carrying an axe at a funeral. I was one of Bob's protest friends. I'll try to keep the politics low for this environment, but something that's always been fascinating to me is when you think of scary leftists, like looking terrifying. You think Black Panthers carrying guns. You think, the punk rock community, like Bob, he looks like an angry Viking, but he is like the most generous, loving human that one of top 3 that I've ever met. It's like you feel the warmth in everything he does and in how he shows up for the people and for the things that matter. When you look at the sheer volume of protests that he would go to. I don't know a single person that went to as many as he did. But the reason why is because each of those battles that he was standing up for the message, standing up for the cause, is a fight for equality and a fight for each of us to have the same rights, have the same standing, and have the same resources as each other. That nobody is better than anybody else. And that's how he, you know, it's unsurprising to hear that he died of having an enlarged heart, because dear Lord, you could see it. There was no question. He showed up for anybody. He showed up for everybody. This year's been really hard for a lot of us. And, you know, I personally have felt it in a lot of extreme ways. And like, he saw it and he's like, hey, come over to my house. Like, you know, we'll hang out. You know, you can, you know, pick out some Lego sets for the kids. And, you know, I went over and we just chatted, and like, you know, when you think of like, you know, his room where he did all those crafts, you know, when you see a guy like Bob and the way that he shows up for the people that are around him, he feels enormous. It's not just like he's a big guy, but like his presence is felt. And then, you know, you go into his room and it's just extremely humble. And it's like, for somebody that gave so much, he would literally give you the shirt off of his back, knowing that, like, you know, he doesn't have much, but it was moving and inspirational. I'm going to swear once. Charlie, I love the shit out of your dad. Like, he was so dang cool. Like, you know, when we went on Saturday, we had, you know, a vigil, and it was like every single community was there. Everybody had their stories. Everybody, like, he just brought so many people together just by being who he was, you know, from, you know, the way that he would chirp and heckle cops to their faces. Oh, it was warming to the heart. You know, when we'd get angry counter protesters that, you know, were screaming racist things to people, he would just like walk right up to them, like, didn't back down, you know, had no bow in his legs, stiff back, and just, you know, make eye contact and you know, talk crap to their faces. And it was, you know, it was weird because, like, to cops, to, you know, the worst of the people that we'd be, you know, standing up to, you know, they had no malice towards him. They'd be like, okay, Bob, how's it going? And like, they would like chat, and he would be like up front in their faces, like, you're wrong and it's horrible. And they'd be like, yeah, you know, like, and they'd like laugh about it. And I was like, I don't think anybody on the planet can get away with what Bob could get away with. I sure couldn't. Like, it was, you know, just having that man stand next to you and be with you, just like, it felt like you were in the right place doing the right thing. Because if you had a man like Bob on your side, you know that you're standing on the right side of history. It was a, you know, really cool opportunity. We threw a protest where we got Dropkick Murphys to come open up our protest for us. And you'll see it in the slideshow. But it was like seeing Bob, you know, like standing behind the front man of Dropkick Murphys with his flag in his hand. It was like, that's just like the most perfect image of the moment of that day, of everything that we were working to create, of the, you know, we've had catastrophes in the community over the past year. And like, that felt like, you know, that was what broke and gave us back momentum so that we can get our communities back on our feet and fighting for justice and fighting for equality for everybody. Like, I don't have any regrets with Bob. Like, you know, I told him I loved him multiple times every time I saw him. He gave the best hugs, and I was not shy with taking my quota of Bob hugs. And, you know, his loss is felt in a way that I was not expecting. But Charlie, we're not going anywhere. Like, anything you need, you know you can call on us. We love Bob, and that just kind of transfers to you. It's like an inheritance thing, you know. There's nothing you can do about it. But like, for all of Bob's family, you know, like he was the coolest damn guy. Like, thank you so much for, you know, being a part of what turned him into the amazing human that he was, and that he'll continue to live on in our memories as that stellar human being. So Bob, we love you. We're going to carry on the fight. We're not breaking momentum. Thank you so much for everything you gave, and we'll try to match.
I'm one of Bob's protest friends as well. Whew. Bob was very, very much a great equalizer, as they were saying, not just in our community, but with other communities. And there's actually counter protesters that came often to our protest. And they're kind of the opposite of everything Bob wasn't. There's a difference in politics and just being hateful. And Bob showed up with love and wanting the best for all of humanity. And these people showed up with hate, but they loved Bob. And Bob would sit and talk with them. And actually, the leader of our local counter protesters has a post of him and Bob with their arm around each other, holding their flags, wearing masks. And he puts a list of things that him and Bob have in common. We both like Jameson. We don't like to waste money. This, and this. So Bob could find common ground and good in even the most awful of people and make friends with them. Bob, like they were saying, would go to up to 5 protests a day from Ogden to Utah County, which is insane. I used to talk to him. We went several times to the Sun Trap, which is a bar in Salt Lake that was fighting to unionize, and that was a Saturday night protest. It was cold and it was dark, and it involved walking laps over and over again with signs. One of the last videos I have of Bob, I filmed it because I thought it was so powerful. Bob picked up the sign and he did some laps, even though it was hard for Bob to walk and he was tired. He actually slept in his Jeep in the parking lot to be able to make it to that protest because there had been one earlier in the day. But that's just who he was. And the last thing I want to share about Bob is Bob used to call me frequently at night while I was making dinner and kind of hold me hostage on the phone. I hate talking on the phone. I love talking to Bob. He would be winding down from work and having some drinks. And I would be cooking and he would keep me company. And Bob decided to watch a movie that was made in 1971. And if you haven't seen it, I hope that you'll watch it. And it's called Bed Knobs and Broomsticks. And it is about a studying witch during World War II who fights with some children against the Nazi regime in Britain. And Bob wanted me to watch the movie with him while I was cooking dinner, which I couldn't do. I've seen it. So he's kind of just telling me about what's happening on the screen while I'm making dinner. And I'm cooking and Bob's drinking and getting progressively more drunk as we're talking throughout the film. And it gets to the end of the film and Bob said something I've never heard before, which is, wow, Angela Lansbury is kind of hot in this. And that's also who Bob was.
I just wanted to say thank you guys for all the stories you told. Um, when a Viking warrior dies, they go to Valhalla. So, um, in a lot of people's eyes, I guess it's kind of the end times we're in. So I guess there's a battle up there that's taking place. I didn't get to know him for long, so I don't have much to say. So this was really nice. I thought he joined my group, but I am realizing that I joined his. So, thank you.
I shared a little bit of this on Saturday, but really want his family to know a lot of the Bob we knew. Because everyone who was lucky enough to meet Bob, their life was made better just by knowing him. In our community, he was the unifier and the peacemaker and brought people together. He wouldn't let us fight amongst ourselves, which tends to happen in leftist communities, and brought us all together. But the funniest thing was, after he passed, there was a post from one of the counter protesters, other than the one that she had already talked about, that Bob specifically, or this guy specifically, had beef with Bob. And he said, "Farewell, my rival, you will be missed." And they had fought all the time. There's videos of Bob saying, "Glenn, you're a expletive," and yelling at him. And he was so sad that he's gone, because he's just that kind of person that even his enemies are heartbroken that he's gone. Enemies. Because he didn't really have any, because everyone loved him so much. I've never met anyone that could be so kind and welcoming and loving and take care of everyone around him, but also protect everyone he loves so fiercely. And all the protesting and everything he did, you could tell came for a love for Charlie and all the family that he kind of adopted around him. He became our big brother. So that's it. Just wanted his family to know how great he was to all of us, and that's it.
So you don't know me. I am Charlie's childhood friend. We grew up together, and I just wanted to say how, like a lot of people were saying about him being a gentle giant. When I first met him, me and Charlie were spending time together, and then he was like, "Oh, I'm going to be going to my dad's house." And I met his dad, and I definitely felt intimidated by him being this small little, like, maybe like 8-year-old, just seeing this big guy towering over me. But he was always super kind. I didn't know him very well, but he was always very welcoming whenever we would see each other. we followed each other on social media, and he would make a lot of videos regarding the protests that he would go to, and I would see people commenting and leaving like really hateful, hurtful comments, and he would respond to them by just saying the most passive aggressive thing possible in the videos, and I just couldn't help but laugh by watching them because he was just able to, even with such hurtful things that people would say to him, he was able to bring light to it and just kind of lift people's spirits, no matter how painful it really was. I always loved that because, again, regarding the protests, he would post a lot of photos and videos going to the protests with Charlie. And I just loved seeing that connection that they had, the happiness that I could see in Charlie's eyes whenever he was with his dad, no matter what they did. It just made me really happy to know that my best friend felt so comfortable and loved by such an amazing human being. That's it. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jana. Bob was my best friend. He'd call me every morning on his way to work. I feel so honored and lucky to have spent so much time with him. I felt so safe at these protests that I would go to. He's like our Viking. I could always count on him being there as long as he was there. Everything was going to be okay. I'd get to go down to his room and I would just sit there and watch him carve. It was so fascinating. And I also got a chance to look through his photos and look at his family. You tell me stories. He made everything okay. He was the unifier. He helped repair a lot of relationships for me. He really taught me how to hone in on my talents and abilities. He'd have this magical way of talking to people, and I admired him so much. Because of that, I wanted to be just like him. Every Saturday, he'd call me and wake me up to go to the protests. We'd go to the first one at 10. Then we'd hit the overpass one. We'd go 4 times in a row, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Boom. He didn't miss one. And I think he made me a better person by far. I got one of his shields. We traded. We made some shields, and he loved them so much that we traded. And I'm really glad, and I feel honored to carry that. He's so amazing person that I know and that I admired. He taught me so much in the most sarcastic way. And God, I love him. But I'm going to carry on every day. What would Bob do? Because that's how I live my life. What would Bob do? Really? And now I carry him around in my heart all the time. Thank you.
I barely knew Bob. I literally only talked to him maybe 3 times. I met him at the protests on Saturday morning in West Jordan, and I could see immediately that he was a champion in the fight against injustice. And to me, that made him a hero. And that's why I'm here today, because I think we need to honor our heroes. Thank you.
My eyes are really red, so I've got to keep these on. Sorry. Today, this sucks. My name's today Bill, and nice to be here today with you all. And it's been really great getting to know the family over the last week or so. It's really good. We've had some really good times with the kids, considering good times. Really great people, and the rest of the family. It's been really good last night and today to meet and to get to know where Bob came from, and it all makes more sense. And it's really nice to know that he was consistent for, pretty much 50 years. He was the same. You wanted stories? Most of them aren't my stories to tell, or I've been advised to stop. So, but about the punk rock thing. Last time I hung with Bob, we talked about the movie. Do I say it? I don't want to say it. I won't be able to do it. Anyway, we had a lot of things in common. By the way, the human that is a local resident that inspired the character of Heroin Bob is still alive and has come to some of our protests. The best encouragement I could get from Bob as a human was I'd go out and do some dumb, foolish thing like run into traffic with a sign and stand in front of cars and yell and scream. And I'd come back to the sidewalk and Bob would be standing there. And sometimes he'd high five you. Sometimes he'd give you a hug. Sometimes he'd just give you that really cool, sweet, low knuckles bump. That was the good one. So always going to have that in me. What would Bob do? Just keep going. No matter what it is you stand for, no matter who you are, you're cool. And that's this guy. And I see it in both of you. And I haven't met this little one, but there it is. So here we go. Bob's still alive.
This is Mercedes, Logan's daughter. I'm the bonus grandma. We were driving from St. George down here, and I said, we're going to go down to Grandpa Bob's funeral. And she says, Grandpa SpongeBob? And I'm like, okay. I've heard her say SpongeBob before when Logan's like, look, Dad, Mercedes on the FaceTime, you know, and he'll sit there and he'll talk to her and he'll talk to her uncle. And she'll walk around the house saying, SpongeBob, SpongeBob, Grandpa SpongeBob. And I'm like, what are you saying? And it finally dawned on me. She was talking about Grandpa Bob, Grandpa SpongeBob. So, yeah, he always was just so happy, like regardless. If Logan and Mercedes' mom was having issues or whatever, he'd always be like, Poppy, what should we do? Or how about we, you know, just let them figure it out or whatever. But it was always no picking sides. It was just, you know, just a heart of gold, like whoever, whatever the situation was. He was definitely an amazing man. And we definitely will keep Grandpa SpongeBob alive in our heart, huh? Can you say hi to everyone? No? So.
I just met Bob back in June, and I just wanted to say that he was a really sweet guy, and I really enjoyed giving him hugs, and he just felt present with me in those moments. I just felt like he's very, very friendly, gentle giant indeed, and I'm going to miss him dearly. And he did set a really great example of how to be a good person in community. And I felt very welcomed, and I felt like he was an old friend, and I had only known him for less than 6 months. So thank you, Bob, for setting the example, and I will strive to be like you going forward in this world, in this realm.
I haven't known Bob. I call him Bobbert. I don't know if that's where it came from, but I always call him Bobbert. I haven't known him for long, but he is one of the funniest humans I've ever met. I like going to these protests in the valleys to show people I'm with them. And then it turned into, I want to go see Bobbert because of how funny he is. Every single time I met him, always put a smile on my face, and we would go back and forth with jokes. When we would meet the so-called enemies, counter-protesters, we would bounce jokes off of each other's on them. And I think that's what also helped calm down a lot of tension, was the fact that we could even get them to laugh. A few weeks ago, I went over to his place, and what was supposed to be a quick 5-minute, hey, I have something for you, come pick it up, turned into a 2.5, 3 hour. I don't even know how long it was, but we were there for so long, just talking back and forth, just joking, making each other laugh. One of the things, I don't know if he actually did this as a joke or he did it out of respect, but if you ever seen the flagpoles he makes, he even told me that he made me the biggest one he can. And when he handed it to me, it's piecing together hearing his family talk of that grin, because he was like, he couldn't hold it. He actually laughed at me, and then he had that grin. And I'm like, oh, you knew what you were doing. You like, yeah, he knows what he's doing, but no, I know he did that. And I'm glad he did. I'm glad he did, because to me, that was one of the most respectful, funniest things somebody can do. But back to the me and him talking to each other. We're just bouncing out. We're talking about our lives, the community, the people in our community. Something he also told me was that he thinks I'm one of the nicest people and not to get taken advantage of. He's the one that started calling me Nacho, because of my name Jalapeno, and he thinks of Nacho Jalapenos. And I made the joke of, oh, it's because I'm delicious. The way he laughed when I first said that joke to him, and we talked about that too. But then that was also one of the last things I told him was, Bob, you truly are a star amongst a few, and your heart's too big for your body. And I clocked it. His heart was too big for his body. I love you, Bobbert.
It's going to be so hard for me. But I feel like I can hear him in my head just giving me shit like, oh, you didn't stand up and say anything at my funeral, Brie? I see how it is. But he just loves you anyway, no matter how much shit he gives you. But I do want to say that I just love him so much. I considered him like my brother, him and John. I've known them since I was a teenager, and I can't tell a lot of stories because it's all debauchery. That's all it was. He just does. He made you feel safe. He made you feel like just everything was going to be okay. Everything was going to work out no matter what. I fell in love with his kids like so much. I love them. And it breaks my heart that he's not here to be with them because I know how much he loved them. Anyway, I love you, Bob.
Is that everyone? I want to thank everyone for coming and for sharing. We have always had a big family, but I feel like our family just got a lot bigger. Logan made a comment yesterday. Why do I do this? Logan made a comment yesterday. He said, I wish I could have one more hug from my dad. There's hundreds of hugs in this room from your dad. So you take them all back. Our family has just grown tremendously. Arguing over who gives the best hug, so it's gonna be a competition later. We'll hold on for that. Again, thank you so much for coming. Those that can be pallbearers, we would love it if you would stand up, head out that door first, and just kind of go down to the end of the walkway outside. They'll bring Bob out. We'll get him in the hearse and head up to the cemetery. Again, for those joining us at the cemetery, please drive carefully, obey all the traffic rules, and we'll meet you up there and say some final goodbyes. Thanks, everyone.
If we can have everyone please stand. Those of you that are very nice to be able to help us as being a pallbearer, you're welcome just to make your way out the doors right now. Just outside the funeral home doors, there's a ramp to your left. If you want to meet us at the bottom of that ramp, we'll use your assistance. His name is Bob. My name's Bob. This is why he was robbed us, because I loved him. And it was weird because my friends told me about it. She is, and she's very That's pretty fun. I love it. So let's be real. That's the real reason that we
I see her face.
So I went up there. And I didn't realize how much I would like the North Flowers down by. But now every time I go down, I'm like, so but every time I go down, the market is like down the week before Christmas Eve. I was down working because I still work for the company in Orem. I just work remote. Because I had to come down to train a new employee for the week. So I was staying in a hotel in Orem, and I went to Tim's house for the family visit. So I go, I was a shooting outside, and that's the one I took every single day. And I'm driving out, and I'm like, so our house is so large here. They were gone. The mom saw the house, and I'm like, I see them
Yeah, well.
I think I threw the short straw. It wasn't even a straw, it was like height. Thank you so much. To know how to manage and try to respect all that. Yeah, because we should host. She's gonna be read about that. I find some of the other